first off, I just want to thank every single one of you for watching along tonight on the stream. If you watched along, every single penny that we raised, including the ad revenue, is going to Amnesty International. So thank you very much for your support and give yourselves a massive pat on the back. But with that said, tonight was insane. Like, front to back, start to finish. So without any further ado, I am Sam from Cultaholic.com. No ties tonight, just booze and confusion, I guess. Hit the intro. So tonight has been a bit of a controversial event, especially with everything that's been going on recently. So how do you kick off such a controversial show? I'll tell you how. You kick it off with WWE Hall of Famer, multi-time WWE champion, the immortal Hulk Hogan. The first thing that happens in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, on the main card of Crown Jewel is real American players. Hulk Hogan comes to the ring and he basically says, "It's so good to be back in front of the WWE Universe. It's so good to be back in front of all these Hulkamaniacs," and the Hulkamaniacs are definitely out in force in Saudi Arabia tonight. And he's excited for the show. This, of course, is the first time we've seen Hogan in a WWE ring in about 3 or so years, and I just don't know what to make of it. What were we to expect of this? Was Hogan going to come out and sort of make apologies for everything that's been going on recently for Saudi Arabia? Was he going to come out and apologize for all the events that had been going on in his private life? No, he just came out, hit the brothers, hit the jacks, hit the pyro, and got himself to the back. It's obviously just too short to grade, but it's just such a weird time for Hogan to return. If they return him, obviously, in America, he'd get booed right now. If they return him in Europe, he'd get booed right now. In Australia, he'd get booed right now. Probably in Japan, he'd get booed right now. But return him in Saudi Arabia, and he gets cheered, doesn't he? So who knows if this means that Hogan's going to be back full time. I mean, the guy was obviously a massive part of a lot of our childhoods, me especially. Like, I'm a WCW kid here, I never had Sky as a kid, so I grew up watching, you know, Hogan, NWO, all that stuff, and then his return to WWE, big things. But I just don't think that he fits in with the modern WWE product, not even as something like a GM or a commissioner role. I just don't see it working. But anyway, after that, after Hogan gets to the back, after everybody's all popped out, we get the first of the World Cup Quarterfinals, Rey Mysterio versus Randy Orton. And this is the tournament, of course, in which we're going to determine who's the best in the world, best in the world, best in the world, best in the world. It was obviously a pretty enjoyable match. Rey and Randy have worked together a lot in the past. They were never not going to impress in this one. You know, they're always going to be entertaining to watch together. But one thing I'd like to just point out is that Rey is 43 and is somehow still wrestling like he's in his early 20s. It's just mental. Another thing worth pointing out is that Orton got like a massive face pop, deservedly so. I guess he's like a living legend. You know, he might not be everybody's favorite, but the guy's done so much over the space of his career. Huge pop, but he manages to get himself firmly on the heel side early on in the match by going for Rey's mask. There were some nice spots in this one. Rey goes for a springboard, Randy counters it with a dropkick, but eventually Rey, being all sneaky, would just curl Randy up into a ball and pin him. And Randy, obviously, now is definitely not the best in the world. But of course, he has voices in his head and in his veins and all over his, insides. So after the match, Randy's like, "I can't believe this. Lil Rey's just beat me. This is ridiculous. The crowd's going wild." So he hits him with an RKO, takes him round ringside and destroys his ribs. Obviously, this sets Rey up to be the underdog of the whole World Cup tournament. Rey's always been best as the ultimate underdog, so, he's going to have to overcome so much adversity to win. I thought he was going to win, so let's carry on in that mentality. I'm going to give this one a B-. It's a Randy Orton versus Rey Mysterio feud potentially in the making, and I'm excited about it, sue me. But Rey probably should get rid of that vest, shouldn't he? It's a little bit naff. Next up, we see the charismatic enigma Jeff Hardy taking on The Miz in the second of the SmackDown quarterfinals. It was a reasonable enough match here. For some reason, the Saudi crowd thought it warranted a "This is awesome" chant, which It didn't. It wasn't an awesome match. It was just a match. And you know, it was fun to see Jeff running along the crowd barrier. I can run along a crowd barrier. I just don't like to show off. Miz picks up the win after Jeff goes for the twist of fate, which is counted into the skull-crushing finale. Miz obviously goes through to face poor little beaten up Rey Mysterio. I'm a little bit sad that this means we won't get Jeff versus Rey, but you know, needs must. Let's just carry on. I'm gonna give this one a C+. There's not really a lot that can be said about it. It was a little bit of a non-match, like a bit of a nothing match, but you know, it's the quarterfinals. They can't really give away too much this early. Next up, it is Bobby Lashley versus Seth Rollins in another quarterfinal match to determine who will be the best in the world. The best in the world. The best in the world. Is it getting old yet? I think it was getting old about 3 weeks ago. Before I get into the match, I'm just wanting to say how much I'm really enjoying Lio Rush as Bobby Lashley's hype man. The guy is an utterly unlikable little motor-mouthed dweeb, and I absolutely love it. The role is perfect for him. Lashley dominates the match here, doing what he does best, and that's just massive, massive piss-off power moves. That said, the majority of the match doesn't really mean much because this one was super quick. Seth Rollins picks up the win with the stomp because of course he does. He's Seth Rollins, and if there's an excuse for him to wrestle more than once in a night, he's gonna do it. Apparently I've heard if he doesn't get 10 minutes on Raw, he'll just go have an impromptu match in the car park against himself because he absolutely pissin' loves it. This one gets a C. I also absolutely loved Lashley kicking out just after 3. It's just, you know, it's the little things, innit? So up next, and finally, it is the final quarterfinal match, lot of finals there, between Kurt Angle and Dolph Ziggler, and actually, this one was pretty good. Oh yeah! It was a great match here which saw Dolph Ziggler kick out of the Angle Slam and hit the zigzag in order to pick up the win, but it was definitely the best match of the night up to this point, and it proves that Angle can still really go. Sure, he was a little bit sluggish, and he was, you know, having a bit of trouble locking the ankle lock in a couple of times, but, you know, it's probably for the best he only wrestled the once tonight, and it gets a B from me. So with that match in the bag, we gotta just quickly look back and you'll see that Kurt Angle just got pinned clean, and not only that, he got pinned clean by Dolph Ziggler. So next round it means that we have Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins once in a lifetime. And it's a bit of a shame we didn't get to see Seth versus Kurt in the semis because that is of course a dream match, but Dolph got the big rub here. And finally, I guess we can ask, does this mean that Dolph Ziggler's going to get an absolute mega power push? Probably not, no. Next up, we go to The Bar versus The New Day for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, and The New Day made their entrance on a massive, flaming, flying carpet that was all smoky and you couldn't really see anything, and wrestling's really weird, isn't it? It was a pretty fast-paced match. It was a little bit chaotic at times as well, but it was nothing to write home about. And of course, the New Day sort of have this innate ability to make any match they're a part of more fun, and this was no different. Kofi was really the MVP here. Everything he does is so smooth and impressive, and he's been on the main roster for like 10 years now. I can't think of anybody more deserving of a world title run than Kofi. Just give it to him. And then in what would become the end of the match, Big Show sort of got up on the apron and hit the KO punch. Well, he didn't really at all hit the KO punch, but it led to Sheamus hitting the bro kick and The Bar picked up the win. And with The Bar picking up the win, I think I'm also going to have to give them a pretty respectable B- for that performance. And of course, the thing that solidified that B- was Big E's very respectful gyrating given the circumstances. Next up, it's back to the World Cup, and we have The Miz taking on Rey Mysterio, who was sort of attacked earlier on in the night and left injured by the very evil jizz hands Randy Orton. Quite quickly, this one gets into a series of strikes and reversals, and The Miz eventually takes it to the ground and starts on Rey's ribs. Rey fights back. Miz eventually gets him into a stretch and starts elbowing the ribs. Rey goes for a 619 after breaking out. Miz reverses it. Miz then hit the skull-crushing finale. Rey kicked out at a perfect 2.9. Everybody held their breath, and Rey had to be going through now. Surely. Nope. Rey hits the 619, Miz counters with the frog splash and gets Rey down for the 3. This was one of the better matches on the card, definitely one of the better World Cup matches on the entire show. You know, The Miz looked really strong after beating Jeff and Rey clean. Even though Rey had been beaten up by Orton, he'd fought valiantly to come back and try and clinch the win. It's absolutely deserving of the grade I'm going to give it, and that is a B. Next up, for the first time ever, it's Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins. Oh my god. Jokes aside, these two have fought a lot over the years, and of course they have amazing chemistry. They've been the center point of countless good pay-per-views, and we knew that this match was always going to be pretty good. It was a pretty intricate match as everybody was expecting, and thankfully it was given a good amount of time. The crowd got really into this one, understandably, and despite the fact we've seen it so many times, it was an absolute pleasure to watch. Ziggler picks up the win after McIntyre shoves Rollins off the top rope. Ziggler hits the super kick, and Dolph Ziggler is in the final of the World Cup. So the final of the WWE World Cup is Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz, and if you claim that you predicted this ahead of time, you are an absolute liar. Heel versus heel, Miz versus Ziggler, it's like I've been transported back to 2014. This match gets a B+, massive respect to both Seth and Dolph. After the match, Dolph gets on the mic, basically says he's going to win the World Cup, he is the best in the world and he's going to prove it, and really, he's actually quite convincing here. But enough about Ziggler. Commentary have just told us that next up, the WWE title is on the line. That's right, it's time for the very hastily thrown together AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe. Obviously, this match was supposed to be Bryan versus AJ, so it's a little bit hard to get invested in this, but, you know, I'm going to grade it on what happened between the ropes. Joe hit this sweet suicide dive that was sort of terrifying and tasty in equal measure, and then AJ hit the announce table really hard, and I figured, well, you know, because there's not really been any build, both guys are going to go all out in this one, and to be honest, I just sort of felt a little bit let down. AJ picked up the win after a phenomenal forearm, but boy did this feel premature. I sort of expected the match to go a little bit longer, but when you consider the feud has already really been wrapped up, then it just makes sense to give AJ a bit of a convincing win, but Samoa Joe deserves so much better. AJ versus Joe gets a C+ from me, and you know, as I said, while it's good for AJ to get the win, I just really hope that Joe gets a feud soon where he comes out on top, because the persistent losses, man, they're just starting to build, and it's only going to start hurting his character even more. But I digress. Next, we go to the ring for Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar for the vacant Universal title. And is this going to be a good one? Let's have a look. Both competitors are in the ring, and before the bell rings, Corbin comes into the ring with the belt, holds it up, nails Braun on the back of the head with it, and bloody hell! Brock then initiates the match, bell rings, hits the F5, and thank Christ, Strowman kicks out. Then Brock picks up Strowman again for another F5, and no, I'm not doing it again. I am not doing another Brock Lesnar Universal title part-time reign. I'm not doing it. So thankfully, Braun kicks out. Then Brock picks up Strowman again for a third F5, and this has to be it, doesn't it? No, it's just, but Strowman kicks out. 3 F5s, and Brock is starting to look a little bit angry. So Braun is, you know, clawing his way back up. Is he going to get some offense in? No! Lesnar picks him up. Another F5, this time out of the ring. And, oh, God. Oh. But Braun manages to get back in the ring and beat the count. He's actually going to do it. Braun Strowman, that massive 7-foot-tall man, is the biggest underdog in the history of WWE, and you can't tell me anything otherwise. And nope, he gets hit with another F5, and Brock Lesnar is now the Universal Champion. Again, part-time. What are we going to do? It was a very, very, very short match full of drama, sure, but I'm not quite sure what this means for the Universal title in the coming days, weeks, months, and God forbid years. So the Universal title picture has been a mess for years, and it's my job, obviously, to grade what goes on inside the ring, so I have to sort of disregard the past of it, but I just can't separate it. I can't find a grade for this one. I'm gonna have to give this one a question mark. I'm sorry, but there's not a lot I can do with it. What I will say though is that Braun, despite losing, he took 4 F5s, including one that went out of the ring, and he'd been nailed in the back of the head with a belt, so he doesn't look weak here. You know, it's supposed to be the most devastating finisher in all of wrestling. Brock Lesnar is the final boss of WWE, but it's just a little bit disheartening. The point is that we've got Brock Lesnar back at the helm again of the Universal Championship division, and it's just going to mean more months of just nothing. It should be the center point of the show. So after that absolute dumpster fire of an explosion of a match, I guess we go back to the ring for the World Cup final, so that we can all stop saying best in the world. I can stop saying best in the world. Commentary can stop saying best in the world. Wrestlers can stop saying best in the world. And I mean, I thought that last match was going to be an easy one to follow, but Christ. So immediately as we get into it, Dolph Ziggler is sent to the back, so we have a nice even playing field for this final, and then it spills out of the ring as The Miz is landing, hurts his knee, and then all of a sudden The Miz isn't fit to compete in the match. So this must mean that Dolph wins by DQ if The Miz is unable to compete, right? Wrong! The match is about to be called off. The ring announcer is halfway through telling everybody that The Miz cannot compete, and so Dolph Ziggler will be the winner before Shane McMahon grabs a hold of the microphone and goes, "I'll do it." Long story short, Shane McMahon inserts himself into a tournament that he didn't qualify for, beats actual wrestler Dolph Ziggler, wins a title that proves him to be the best in the world, is then shown on screen as being best in the world Shane McMahon, and Vince McMahon is sat somewhere in Saudi Arabia either laughing or crying or wanking. I don't know what's going on. Shane McMahon, best in the world. I guess at least it wasn't Hogan. Oh god, yeah, a grade. Okay, this one gets an F. Of course it gets an F. An F for leave forever, Shane McMahon. Please, just be gone. And now it's main event time, and it's not for the WWE title, it's not for the Universal title, it's not for any title. It's for 4 geriatrics squaring off to prove who's the best. I'm really sorry, that's unfair. I'm pretty grumpy after that. It's Shawn Michaels and Triple H DX versus the Brothers of Destruction, Undertaker and Kane. Once again, I'm going to grade this one on what happened in the ring. I'm going to put all my personal feelings aside, my strong support for The Undertaker no matter what, my concerns over Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement in Saudi Arabia, they're all gone. I'm just going to grade things based on the match itself. Proceedings got underway with Triple H and Kane before Triple H tagged in Michaels, who got a massive pop, and then Kane tagged in Undertaker, and finally the crowd seemed to wake up and get off their phones for this absolute meth high of a show. The fight spilled out from ringside. Taker hit old school. Please stop doing this. I'm really worried you're gonna fall. I don't want you to hurt yourself really badly. But basically, as the Brothers of Destruction ramped up the intensity, DX slowly came off the back foot and matched it. Undertaker cleared the Arabic announce table. He took Shawn up there. Triple H made the save, and then basically Triple H sort of Irish whipped himself into the barricade. There's a sort of really awkward exchange of about 2 seconds when Undertaker and Triple H are running along holding hands, and then Triple H hits the barricade first, and then Triple H comes off as if he didn't hit the barricade. It was very odd. And then there's a little bit of confusion over what happened next. Basically, Kane took Triple H and planted him through the English announce table. The English announce table had not been cleared, so it still had screens, pens, all the debris, your tablets, all that crap, and the big plastic hood over the top. And then when he landed, the sides of it sort of came up over, and apparently people are saying that he's hurt his arm pretty badly, which led to the derailment of this match from this point forward, which makes a little bit of sense when we look at what comes next. What was a slow building match just seems to hit a wall, and it never really recovers from this point onward. The Brothers of Destruction take Shawn into the ring and obviously slowly kind of just tear him apart. Shawn gets up onto the top rope. He gets into it with Kane, punches Kane so hard that Kane's wig and mask fall off, which is just a bit ridiculous. And then when the two guys peel off to the outside so Kane can put his mask back on and they get set up for what's about to happen, Shawn hits a massive moonsault from the top rope to the outside, and Undertaker and Kane barely catch him. Triple H then gets back into it. He hits Taker with a pedigree. Taker then counters with a Hell's Gate. Triple H is trying to escape. A little kerfuffle kicks off with Shawn and Kane. Shawn and Kane fall onto Taker. Taker lets go with a Hell's Gate. Triple H hits Taker with a really bad looking pedigree. Triple H picks up the win. I'm gonna have to give this one a D-. I love Triple H, I love Shawn Michaels, I love Kane, I adore The Undertaker, but it just felt like it never got out of the blocks. It didn't really have a chance, and I guess if the rumors are true surrounding the injury, then that's obviously a valid reason, and God, I hope Triple H is okay. If you are injured, we're all sending our positive thoughts to you, but it just never seemed like it had a fair chance. So overall, what am I gonna give Crown Jewel? Well, I'm gonna have to give it probably a D-. I just felt like so much stuff was shoehorned into it. I mean, Brock Lesnar as Universal Champion, Shane McMahon as Best in the World, Hulk Hogan returning to WWE television at the most controversial show of the year, the most controversial return. Like, what was this show? What was it supposed to be? I feel like my entire world is ending, and then next Monday we're just gonna carry on as if nothing has happened. I just can't. I've been Sam from Cultaholic.com, and this was Graded. You can follow me on Twitter here. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget to hit subscribe and join us.